To go ahead and look at the screen on that side over there and to see, yes, we are going to do this preparation. We've got on one side the sprouted. All right, those are two of the items that we're going to try to do tonight. And this will be a lengthy stream for those who are just going to be passing by. We want to go ahead and invite those to join us in the live stream. Now, in one moment, I'm going to just check the sound, make sure that I am live and you can hear me. So, sorry for the dishwasher going right now, but I will check to see if the sound is going. All right, I'm so glad that you can join us for the live stream. And this is Kanittha's Vegan Kitchen. I've stepped away from the camera for the moment. And I'm going to bring over the poster board for the vegan kitchen. So we'll go ahead and show you this. Now, Kanittha is the chef here. She is not available at this point, but maybe later on for some questions and answers. She usually does the Thai food section, and I do the other vegan options. Now, I'm going to just choose a couple of items here to keep my sign from falling. We'll use that gigantic yam right there. You can't see it, but we will look at that here in a moment. All right, I'm just going to check the sound and make sure that we are live and going. Sometimes when I do the stream, I don't have the sound, so let me just check it really quick. Okay, it looks like, oops, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and change the sound down. Looks like I am available to be heard. And let's just see here. All right. Again, here shortly. I'll just make sure that I have the live stream up for the chat on Facebook. Access to that unless I'm running your computer. So apologize if that is not right there at my fingertips. Let's see if I can do that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and open that up. Watch the live video that says here we go. Okay, so there's the live chat on the side. So again, we'll be checking at that briefly once in a while. So, I just had a wonderful dinner, and again, some vegan options are the ones that we usually choose, and we're looking for things that will help inflammation. So, of course, there's politics for going vegan, I guess, and those people who are against those type of things are really into more of that back and forth debate. We're using these things to help to increase your health and improve your longevity. We want to increase your ketosis. We want to increase your fiber content. We want to decrease your inflammation, and we want status. A name, but this is a sprouting jar, a very large jar. This is only 2 cups of. I don't want to wait an extra day because I can't do this tomorrow. Is taste. This is the soybeans. What I'm going to do with this right now, I've already rinsed it. It's ready to go. I'm going to put about 1 1/4 cup into the blender, and the blender is always a good choice to do. So let me find the blending pot. So we're going to use our. Now, I'm going to probably go low, and in fact, let me just find that now. Sometimes I have to go low for the stool because the visual is upward. The camera's so close. But that's okay. We're introducing this to those people who want to just pass by, not necessarily watch the whole thing. We don't want to watch the whole thing. Just passing by, and if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. So I'm going down at the midget level, and here we go. Tidy up a few things. All right, so here we go.
we're going to use the about 1 1/4 cup of the soybeans. All right, again, this is the soybean jar, sprouting jar. I've sprouted this about 2 days. 3 days would probably be more ideal, but then it's not as fresh like I mentioned earlier. So I'm putting that now. That's about 1.5 cups. Now, I'm trying to recall when it's 1 cup. This started up with 2 cups. So if I only put 2 cups and it's sprouted already, it's going to be definitely not enough. So I'm going to put 2 cups of a generous heaping of 2 cups. The rest, let me see if I have enough. Yeah, I think so. So a nice heaping of the first one. The second one is looking pretty good. All right. So there's definitely some benefits with the sprouted version. You can always look at that, trying to reduce the nutrients. That's the big thing for our fad diets lately. And they are actually science-based. I'm going to put back 1 more spoonful of soybeans in that one. I think that's probably going to be enough. I probably like more, I don't know if I like more tofu or more yogurt. I don't really need too much yogurt. So now this first one is probably going to be, we're going to go for the bigger batch first, and this is going to be then the soy milk and soy yogurt. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put this in the blender. Now you're going to see me put in the blender over here in this corner here. Make sure everything is tidied up. Looks like there is the pot on the top. You can see that's the Thai steam pot. We're going to put this in the blender right now. And we're going to put, with those 2 cups, the first round, if we're going to go for the soy milk, we want to have 5 cups of filtered water. Now, someone told me that we do not have any water left. So great. Now, we don't have to have probably the greatest filtered water right now because, well, we need it because we're making the soy milk. So I'm going to see what kind of water we have left. If we have any. Okay, it looks like we have some. About 5 cups worth. So I've put that back there. Now the rest of these are going to be for the soy cultured tofu. Cultured tofu, sprouted cultured tofu. Now you can see all of these on Gourmet Vegetarian Kitchen. I don't know, remember the woman's name, but she's Thai. She came over to Oregon, and I don't know if really she grew up cooking Thai food, like a lot of it, but it's definitely warm in here, so I might have to put the fan on. So one moment as I search for the fan. Let's just talk a little bit as I'm searching for the fan. We want to make sure that we grind the tofu, not the tofu, the soybeans adequately. This is the right. Should work. And there it is. I might even use my headscarf for today. It is very warm. It's warm here in California. I don't know if it's warm where you are, but I figured that if it is the end or before the beginning of fall, it's already Labor Day, some of you are experiencing colder weather. So, that going, so I think that's going to be I have a sweaty hat. Okay, so now I'm back again. I'm looking over the screen if there's anyone in the live chat, and it looks like there might be something there. Hold on. All right, let's walk way over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the 5 cups. I don't know if we have 5 cups because we're running out of the filtered water. So we're to go for 5 cups. And what's nice about this roving one, you know, that can be loud is that I can speak everywhere. Filtered water, how much filtration you need, you can just choose however you want to. So we're going to go ahead, we've got 2 cups worth there. Let's see if we can make 5 cups worth of soy milk. Now, it won't be 5 cups. It's probably going to be less than that because we have to boil this for like 20 minutes just to get it to curdle. So we've got, and there you go, 1 more cup. And we'll see if that goes with the extra cup. Now, this is a live stream. This is not like a how-to video just to see how to cook. Now, if you notice here as the BiohackerPT, we have some Stelzer filters. Well, I shouldn't say the exact brand, but it's a filter for the decreasing the electronic smog. So these are really good. You can check it with the plug, and you can notice that there is a definite decrease in the output of electric smog. And that's the spiking. You don't want to have that going around in your body. Now, especially with insomnia, for those who have problems with sleeping. Now, from that position, I might do a little bit more of a zoom. Let's see if this zoom is working now. I'll probably have to do a finger zoom. Finger zoom, there it is. A little bit of a finger zoom. Not the greatest finger zoom. All right, so I need to have a cap, definitely for that. And we just used that earlier. This morning, we made some, well, last night actually we did it. We made some vegetable smoothie. Now, a lot of people are big into kale. If you're a Dave Asprey fan, kale is not necessarily the best for his viewers, he says. And the reason why is the oxalate is part of it. And it's there. So, we use collard green for that instead. And what we do is we use the Instant Pot to decrease that as we try to steam it before we put it. So if you cook it, put it with some lemon, whatever, that might be helpful. So I'm looking for the top. There it is. So we're going to put the, we're going to put that on there. Now it's good to always have ear protection. You want to preserve your ears. So I have one ear that's on my speaker for my roving mic. Bluetooth, which shouldn't be the greatest. I'm also doing Wi-Fi in the house, which again for the 5Gers, that might be good for them. I'm more of a 4Ger. All right, so here we go. Actually, it's Wi-Fi in the house. Still less than 5G, what I've chosen. So I'm going to go ahead now and turn the blender off. First, you just turn it slow, and then you just speed it up. Go all the way as fast as you can. And then you just put it on the line. I'm not going to do this spinning without being right beside it. So you might just go boom. So I'm going to do it. Now the problem with this is that once we open it up, it's going to burst open because there's not enough room in the blender. So what we need to do is we need to just open the very top and just pour it through that. Now, I used to use some hemp filter nut bags. That sounds funny, a nut bag. So, or use a strainer? Yeah. So we're going to use these strainers instead. Now this has a different material that's maybe not the greatest. It's maybe cotton, and it's not the best quality. So cotton's usually bleached. So, but we're going to use these. I like to use 2 just in case we need it. And I find that that's much faster, because if you do the other one, you'll squeeze it and you'll bust a hole in it, and you're going to be all sorry that you bought your hemp bags. And so we're going to go ahead and put this in here. Now I don't have the top view of this. Now for those who have listened to my stream before, you've noticed that I don't have sometimes a top view. So I'm not the professional yet on that, probably never will be, but I'm going to have to pour this quickly. There we go. Now what you're missing here is an actual interesting process, and I might choose another view here in a minute, but this is the soy milk. Well, not really the milk yet. It's because there's curds. So we're separating actually the soy meal from the curds and the whey, right? There's soy meal, and then there's the curds and the whey. Now, I probably should put the gloves on, because some people do have allergies with soy, and this is still, well, it's sprouted soy, but still might be a little too strong for people. So I would advise you to use a glove. A glove would probably be better for this. So as I'm squeezing here, let's just talk a little bit about the benefits of soy, the isoflavones, the protein. I mean, you drink almond milk, and you're going to have some problems if it's not sprouted. And if it's sprouted, you have problems that it's like not be fresh anymore. So you have this kind of balance between the freshness and the sprouted benefits that also increases the nutrients, right? So this is going much faster than it usually does, so this is good. Now in this pot, I do have the instant pot. It's like you're milking a cow almost, isn't it? Now, I've only milked a cow once, I think. We had my old doctor, church member, that he had a farm, and on his farm he had some cows. E-I-E-I-O. Yeah. So as I'm squeezing this, again, I'm collecting in here in about 2 cups worth of soy meal. Now, if you feed a cow, so you think you're going to get away from soy, you're not going to get away from soy, because you're going to have soy when you eat a cow. All right, when you eat beef, there is soy that he eats. Now, usually the soy he eats is this, what we call soy meal. And the soy meal is important because it gives them a high amount of protein. Now, the soy meal, so there's a lot of soy whey that gets lost, and it gets into the water supply. And if the soy is not a good soy, you might have problems with that runoff from that whey, right? Now, what's the best thing to do with the whey? Well, you can make a soy whey drink. You've heard about your regular whey. Soy whey is definitely some nutrition in that as well. And I choose to put that in smoothies. I also use that in my fiber drink. In fact, I eat a fiber drink every day. And what's good about a fiber drink? Well, if you're diabetic or if you have diabetes, you're definitely going to have some benefits from drinking whey. So my other screen just died. I don't know what happened to it. It should show up on there. But I'll refresh that in a minute. It has the picture of what we're making. We're making the cultured soy milk. And that cultured soy milk, this is actually just sprouted soy milk. I don't think we can really do cultured soy milk. But we make it cultured by using it as milk for yogurt. And this yogurt is going to be made with, you can use sometimes rice, fermented rice water, or called Rejuvelac on the website, or maybe vegetarian kitchen. It just describes that. That's where you take some sprouted rice, and what I usually do is overnight I soak it. In the morning I will strain it, or what you call rinse it, and then I will make my own, well, I sprout it for 2 days. And then after I sprout it, I take that and rinse it off, of course, every day. It would be like twice a day. I would try to strain that and rinse that. And then, so you can see on the top, it's making a bigger batch of this soy meal. So, let's just continue on the soy. So with the Rejuvelac, on the we put it into a jar full of filtered water, and I go ahead and put a fermentation top on that has kind of a release spout, and it keeps it airtight. It's bubbling out, release the bubbles. And we make fermented rice water. What can you do with fermented rice water? You can actually shampoo your hair and put it on your skin. It's an excellent, I don't know if tonic is the right word, but it's an excellent hair tonic, I guess. And it's very helpful for rejuvenating your hair follicles. It's also helpful for your skin. A lot of times when you wash your body, you take away the good bacteria. Now you have a microbiome, right? You've heard about that in the, let's see, I would say the microbiome of the gut, but you also have the microbiome of your skin and your mouth, your nose, and or nasal pharynx, would you say? And then you have on your skin. It's very important. So you have to keep that in mind when you're using antimicrobial soap. They used to actually have an antibacterial soap, but that was discontinued because of its, I think it's estrogen effects, or yeah, estrogen or cancer causing it. I think it's the estrogen effects, but they discovered that, and it's still, some of it's in there. They haven't actually researched the other ones, but they took out one. If you look at an older bottle, if you refill your antimicrobial hand sanitizer, you might have an old bottle and you can read the ingredients there, and you can look that up also about what are the bad benefits of antibacterial soap. So you want to rejuvenate your skin. Maybe that's why they call it Rejuvelac. You can actually drink that water after the 3 days, and then we can use that as the culture for this cultured tofu and soy yogurt. So I'm almost done here. We try to be more efficient, of course, with all of this. It's just hard because you're making everything fresh. And you can see here, I'm going to bring over the camera if I can here in a minute. I probably should have zoomed it up a little bit more, but you can see here, and hopefully without creating a large mess, you can see here the soy meal. And what we're going to do with the soy meal is we're going to put it in a jar. And what you can do with the soy meal, just like the feed for the cows, you could now use this to make your own soy kernels. Or another thing to say is, I call them soy crumbles. Now, sometimes you hear about TVP, and that's a little different. Texturized vegetable protein, but I make my own similar, and it has it's basically just that soy meal, and it's dehydrated overnight, or maybe 20 hours. So I'm still going for more of the squeezing as we talk here, because we still have to boil this for 20 minutes, right? And we're still going to have to make the other one. Now, a couple of the other items that I was talking, we haven't even squeezed that other half of it, so we're not even done. This is about half. Okay. So you can buy a soy maker. A soy maker will be excellent for Christmas. All right, just hint, hint, hint for the Christmas shoppers. Now, I'm not so big into Christmas. That's kind of a different channel, so we won't talk too much about Christmas. We'll just say during the holiday season, all right? And we do want to celebrate, of course, the birth of the King. And we usually do that through maybe Hanukkah. Sometimes. Well, Hanukkah is Jewish. They didn't celebrate the birth of the King. But Hanukkah is the festival of lights. So that's during that time. Another thing that just kind of as a curiosity is Saturnalia. I don't know if you've heard of Saturnalia, and that's all a pagan holiday. So if you're pagan, I welcome you here as well. It doesn't matter who you are, or what faith you are, or what creed, or what race, or what orientation you are welcome to this channel. You're very welcome for this channel. Now, sometimes people also talk about soy boys. Now, what's a soy boy? A soy boy is somebody who maybe is a liberal, I would say, is like labeled liberal, and they like to eat soy. And when they eat soy, they think that maybe because of the estrogenic effects, that's with like lots, you have to drink like about maybe 5 gallons of soy a day, and you don't do that. But some people have decided, well, as a student, we're going to go ahead and drink that. So I don't know if you're a student or not, but we did that, and I don't know how large the study was. I think it was more of a, I don't know if it's a case study, but of course, not a randomly controlled peer-reviewed scientific journal. And it was a scientific journal, to say that, but maybe not randomly controlled large long-term study, but it showed that there's higher estrogenic effects when you eat too much soy. So the soy boy, derogatory, I guess, is that they have these soy men, and because of the estrogenic effects, they're a little more feminine. They're feminized more or less. And when you're feminized, you're just kind of soft, and you go with the flow, and you're not like one of those he-men. And if you looked at Caitlin, I can't remember her last name, but she's the one that has the gun on Kent University. She's the one that has her website, and she's definitely probably not for soy. She doesn't like the soy boys either. All right. Again, another channel to discuss about all those items. You can join me on my other channels if you'd like to, and that is Crusader for Him, and that is on Joshua TV. Now, we're taking off this here, and I'm going to go ahead and point this downward here. You probably can't see it. There you go. So I'm taking off this and making my soy meal. Look at that. And that's going to be excellent here in a minute, that we're going to put that in the dehydrator at the end of this long evening's broadcast. Who knows, the battery might even die. So if it dies, we know that we tried to show you a little bit about what we do here in food prep. Now, one of Asprey, I think, is his, he's against veganism, I believe, but he definitely talks about a protein fast day in his new book, Fast This Way. Okay, I'm not trying to promote, I don't have any benefit for promoting him, but he is one of the fathers of modern day biohacking, so we have to give him good credit for that. And I enjoy his quarterly biohacking box. Very exciting things come in the mail. This month, let's see, the items that were in there, I think the biggest item was the copper based pillow cover. I don't know why I'm so excited about that, but I like that. And I'm gonna rinse this off. And the reason why I need to rinse this off is because it just won't come through very well for the next batch of that. Now, my hand is actually kind of burning, so I think I might need to put my glove on here in a minute. But who knows, this might be actually beneficial for it, because it's, well, it's not cultured, it's just the soy stuff. If it's cultured, I would enjoy it a little bit more, I think. So I'm just rinsing off some of the strainer bags. Probably should use filtration, but we're low on filtration water right now. So, all right. Now, if you do have eczema or psoriasis, this is probably going to cause a little bit of inflammatory reaction in your hands. So I'm going to kind of like scratch it a little bit, which is a no-no. And I'm going to probably put my cover up. All right, I'm going to reset this here. Okay. So I still got another batch to do. So we still got 20 minutes in. So why do that? Why not just take the easy way? Okay, so let's just talk about the easy way, because we've done this before. I don't know if it was a stream or if it was some sort of post on Instagram, and you can join me on this if you'd like to, just for updates and pictures of what our final product does, because sometimes we don't have time to show that day, especially if you have to wait overnight or wait another day or whatever for the results. Okay, so again, not the brand that I'm not looking at, but we use this unsweetened soy plain soy milk, and the only ingredients in here is water and organic soybeans. And of course it contains soy. That's what it puts on. It contains soy, like they put, tree nuts or whatever. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to try to stop scratching my hands because this is the whole idea. But let's do the second batch of our squeeze-a-thon. Again, looking over to Facebook, looks like I haven't had any chance yet for that. Now, if we don't have time, we're going to show you right now what we do with the sprouts. With the sprout, we have the sprouted flaxseed. Well, what's nice about the sprouted flaxseed is that I sprouted this for 2 days. Now, this one is kind of I wouldn't say it's a dud, but this other one is definitely the better of the two. I don't know why one is less than the other, because maybe one's on top of the other. So this is my sprouts. That's probably too close. And I'm going to put this in the dehydrator. And as we put this in the dehydrator, we're going to try to decrease, well, we're improving it because we sprouted the flax. We've broken down the enzyme inhibitors. And now at a lower temperature, about 105, I like to go ahead and put this in the dehydrator. So I already rinsed this a while ago. So in the meantime, well, we'll do this in a minute. I just want to show you that if you don't have any time. Now, if we don't have any more time later, the battery just dies because we're at 60%. And let me actually put in here on why that's not showing. There it is. This is my pecans, and they're going to be dehydrated too. So this I put just in this one jar, I put a cup of pecans and about a half a teaspoon of, it could be sea salt. I have kosher salt. I like the kosher salt. It's got the nice big chunks. And then we went ahead and rinsed this off because we had it soaking in the day. I started in the morning, and it's the evening time. So we're going to go ahead also on our dehydrator tray, put this, because I have 5 trays. So I've got the 2 sprouts, I got the 2 soybean meals, and then I have the pecans that are going to be activated. Again, 105. I'm going to see if we can improve its punch. All right, so there's definitely some benefits for dehydrating the nuts. Again, this is a tree nut, so some of you are allergic to tree nuts. Now, the other option that I like to use for the nuts, if you're not into tree nuts and you're wanting that kind of crunchiness, is Sacha Inca or Inche. Those nuts. Again, I'm covering it. This is the Sacha Inchi. All right, it's probably pronounced differently, but Sacha Inchi. These nuts are excellent. These are not actually tree nuts. These are like seeds, and they come in a pod. And these come off of a small tree, but it's not, it's like a bean almost out of the pod. Okay, so this is Sacha Inchi. High in omega-3, a good ratio of omega-6 and omega-3, high in omega-3, and it's got the fiber, it's got the protein. I mean, just having a fourth of a cup of this is actually 9 grams of protein. So if you're looking for a good nut substitute, that's a good one. Some of you just can't take the peanut protein, but those who can, I like to choose the Valencia. We actually have in the garden some Valencia peanuts that are growing. Those are like vine nuts. They didn't even go underground, but they're in so they don't absorb all the spraying and all the toxicity that you sometimes get in the soil if you spray them, and maybe, who knows, it might be even less needed for the fungicides and such. I don't know all the science to that, but the Valencia peanuts are an option. I keep on switching right here. Okay, now, because my hand is dry, I'm going to probably choose, and it's going to be hard to turn on and off the sound if I need to, but I'm going to get my gloves. It is warm. So, now, going to the gloves. Now, there's vinyl gloves, and there's nitrile gloves, and there's latex gloves. Some people are allergic to latex. And I found out that the nitrile gloves are still the best. Now, the vinyl gloves usually have what they call phytates. Not phytates, it's the phthalates. So you got PVC in the plastic, and you have not phytates. It is phthalates. So you want to avoid beside this dishwasher, and it should hopefully not be too long on. But again, it's creating some EMF that probably is not the most healthy. Maybe not EMF, but EF, electromagnetic or electric frequencies, radio frequencies. Well, we've got, for the Biohacker, we have our voltage style airwaves. It's very interesting. It's very important to know that. And we'll talk about maybe 5G at some other time. So that's in summary. If you need to go on and move on for the rest of your evening, thank you for joining us. And we are going to continue on with the soybean milk as we make our sprouted soybean yogurt or soy yogurt. So we've got the second batch. I'm going to rinse these gloves. Again, the picture on here is what we're trying to aim for, and the one on the right is that actually is tofu. That's the tofu, and it doesn't really show the yogurt, but that's very similar with what we use for the yogurt picture, I'd say. It doesn't have that curds in the way separation like that as much, because we have less. Well, we have more water. So we've got to finish the rest of this. We're going to do that now. And I don't know if you can see me now. Let's see if we can get it going here with that. So we're going to continue on, and I might still change the view here in a minute, but I'll have to review that later. So because we've topped off, we've got the top off that last batch, let's do this second batch. We still have a lot of milk there. Hopefully this will be the last one. So there's a lot of foam. Now some people like to preserve the foam. This foam sometimes turns into more milk later on. And we are just bursting with flavor. It doesn't have that staleness that you would have if you sprouted it for an extra day. So I think I like this, especially for those who are sensitive to maybe that smell and they don't really care for the smell. So we are going to now go for the second batch of squeezing. All right. So we're doing this now. We're making the fresh soy milk. Now, why has soy got such a bad rap? Well, if you think about it, they promoted soy. Say soy was an industry, and they wanted to promote it so that everything was soy. You look at the Olympic athletes; they're all over the boxes of soy milk. Right? So there is some benefits, or there's a bunch of lobby into soy. So soy became kind of the big thing. And, you know, you could just overdo too many things if you have too much. So people started to also kind of go against that because maybe we were going against more the beef industry and the egg industry, and I don't want to name like Cargill or name the egg industries conglomerates, but you know, you were always promoted dairy and eggs as your protein source. So soy became a good protein source, and you see that in epidemiological studies in China and stuff, the benefits of soy. Now some of the soy that you add is like the soy milk and the tofu. Some of the fermented soy, Japanese, I wouldn't say just Japanese, but we have the fermented natto, and the other fermented is tempeh. Some interesting textured soy there as well. Now, I haven't tried to make so much that tempeh. I just don't feel like creating mold, the whole idea of the mold thing. So, instead of the tempeh, to substitute for the tempeh, I make this cultured tofu. And it's very similar. You can slice it up very similar to tempeh, and use it that way. So this is going well. This is again the second batch of our first one with the soy milk. So we've been broadcasting for a while now. We still haven't finished our soy squeeze separation. So squeezing here. We're going to talk. Oh, I got that in there. That's good. So biohacking is, it's not transhumanism. It's not, what's the word that you can use for cultural elitism and eugenics? Not eugenics, removing just one phrase and such. So not eugenics, not transhumanism, we're not planting a chip in your brain, but we're using biotechnology to help increase our health. So even if you look at the biohackers, are they into the gene altering type of activities that's going on nowadays, if you know what I mean? They're actually not. They want to try it also as naturally as they want. And that's what the BiohackerPT is. What does physical therapy have to do with biohacking? Well, it has a lot because so much needs to be known about our immunity and about how it's tied into inflammation and pain. So a lot of these things are really helpful if you look at the studies of how to decrease pain. You look at serotonin, you look at dopamine, you look at some of these things that are involved with your body, melatonin, maybe not dopamine per se, but let's say serotonin, norepinephrine, we have nitric oxide, we have all these things that are very important that is helpful for decreasing inflammation and pain. So biohacking is excellent to decrease pain, and it really just goes hand in hand. Now, when we talk about physical therapy, why are we talking about nutrition? Well, I'm going to take it in a broad sense, and the California Physical Therapy Association has written our Guidelines and Practice Act, and in that talks about our ability to talk about nutrition, supplementation to our clients and our patients in the interest of their health. Okay? And we are able to do that through the physical therapy license. Okay? So we definitely find that you can't really go much physically to decrease your symptoms and such if you don't take care of your inflammation, your pain, and your nutrition. Exercise is one component of the 8 natural remedies, and one of the natural remedies is also nutrition. Nutrition, exercise, water, and sunlight is very important, vitamin D. Now, a lot of the soy milks that you get and almond milks, they have the vitamin D3, actually D2, and that is usually not, I don't know if it's not vegan or if it's synthetic or what it is, but it's different than the D3. Now, D3, I think there's 2 processes for vitamin D3. One is lanolin, or the sheep's oil, and they actually use that oil to make the vitamin D. I just can't remember the other way as well right now. There's another way that they make vitamin D3 as well. So, now, I guess one way is probably better because if you're truly vegan, you're even against like using the sheep and the sheep's skin. So you want to look into that, the secondary way that they do the D3 usage. Now, we're going to keep on squeezing away. We're almost done with the squeeze, and we're going to just start to rev up the cool, not the cool, I should do something that's cool, but it is just toasty hot. Maybe I can't open the window in California. It's just strange because it's like there's so much pollution and so much particulate matter and so much pollen in the air. It's just, you've got a lot of trees out there, but you know, of course they produce the oxygen. Now go with this for a moment. If we have CO, carbon monoxide, it's not carbon dioxide, shouldn't we have, if we have a warming planet, shouldn't there be more rain? So why is there less rain in California? If global warming and climate change is the cause for the drought? So that's a question for those biohacktivists, which you need to be as well. We need to be biohacktivists. What we can do with biology and nature in tackling the social ills and problems of this world. Now, we are continuing this drip, 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 the milking of the soy. I feel like it's just a cow. It takes some ages to milk a cow, so that's why you have machines that do it. But we need to talk about like the soybean or the soy milk maker. And the only problem with the soy milk maker, I think, is because the way that it's cooked or the way that it's processed, you can't really get the correct, there needs to be a cooling down period where you can actually take it and you would put it in the jar to make yogurt or tofu. It's just, I heard it just doesn't work as well as doing it fresh. It's just, it takes forever to make it fresh. So if you do it, you have to get a soybean maker that doesn't, it's just gonna grind it and then later on you boil it. Okay? Because right now this process here would be good if you had just a machine. But you don't want to have it boiled already and then try to separate everything. Alright, so you have to do this first. I've made my mistakes before. That's why we've been in such a hiatus for such a long time. Alright, so we're almost done with the squeezing of this. And we're going to now put it into, we're going to take the soybean meal and put it into a jar. Where did it go? Oh, it's way over there. So we're using this again. We're adding to the soybean meal. Again, soybean meal is used for feed, and we're using it for the protein benefits of the soybean meal. And there's still nutrition in there, so just don't throw that away. You've got to really just preserve that if you can. And oops, I didn't want my finger on there, but you can't see that quite nicely anymore. But I'll have to take off my soy paste now on the gimbal. Alright. So I like to save kind of every crumb, and I'm scared it's going to be on the floor here in a minute, so I've been successful so far. this evening for this, so I don't want to just ruin it. So I might just, I'm still wanting to preserve every speck of this if we can. Now, you've got to think about storing some food items before the apocalypse, more or less. Now, we are assured as you know, the people of the end times, for those who are believers, more or less, they will have bread and water for sure. Now, for those of you Asians, maybe bread's not the greatest thing for you, but bread and water is assured, all right? But it's, and if you live too close to the freeway, you're going to have your house hoarded anyway. So whatever food that you have, I mean, if it requires water supply, you're going to be out of luck, because the water supply is probably going to be out. Who knows, contaminated, or just it's just going to come to a dead halt as the filtration process. So you're going to be stuck without water. So a well is also appropriate. Living far away from the main highways is appropriate. And then you should be able to survive for 3 years, 3 years, maybe 3 months. But if you were able to sustain yourself for 3 years, that might be a good kind of like benchmark for those who are really doomsday preppers. All right. So that's again another channel. But now I'm going to clean off this bag again, because we are going to use this in another squeeze-a-thon here in a minute for the soy tofu, soy milk for the tofu. It used to be less. So we use 5 cups for the 2 cups of soybeans for the soy milk and the soy yogurt. But later we're going to use the, one moment here, hopefully I won't shut the screen off. Got to clean off that creme de la creme. So what's nice with this, if you can see that, we're going to make this into 3 balls. Well, we still got the other one, so we're going to probably combine it, because the next one might not be as successful as this one, okay? And the reason why I'm saying that is from experience. So we might want to just form kind of a big ball with this for now, and then later on we'll make 3 smaller balls. So I don't know how successful I'm going to be without a table. So I might have to use the table. So you're not seeing this right now, and maybe we can get down to nitty-gritty on this. There you go. Now with this gimbal, it doesn't have kind of an extension. And I guess I could use a tripod, but then I can't put it on the table. It's going to be too tall. So we probably need to use like a small tripod in addition to this tripod that we already have with the gimbal. Alright, so I might have to put this in a bigger jar, because it feels like it's just going to fall right out of here. But let me just make a ball as I can. So what is nice about this is we're not going to put this straight into the dehydrator. We're going to actually put this in the steam setting on the Instant Pot, because we want to still see if we can decrease the lectin content. So those of you who are Gundryites, if you know what I mean, Gundryites, Dr. Gundry and his plant paradox and longevity paradox and whatever paradox that he's decided to try to bust through, that would be more, what's the words for that? Not a game changer, but let's see here. All right. Not a myth buster, kind of a myth buster. Just another word for that. But I'm squeezing these all together and putting this together. The mind's kind of interesting. You know, you can have good memory, but sometimes you can't think about everything all at the same time, so your brain kind of filters it out. This is a good excuse, I guess, for those people who are semi-forgetful. So we've got a ball and a half so far, so we're going to make another ball and a half in a moment. Now, I'm probably not going to be satisfied with crumbs on the floor, because the chef might come back and be horrified. So while that's going, we'll get and we're going to see how much milk we produce. Well, not milk yet. It's just a combination of whey and curds to be the curds and the whey. All right, so here we go. Let's see. We're going to change the view here in a moment. Now we're at 44%. We're still hanging in there. Our other screen just died, so we don't have the picture. There we go. So we've got maybe about, I can't read it off very well, and I'm just sweating. Let's see here. I've got to preserve this part here. So I'm gonna not cheat, but I'm gonna just search for the. Okay, so we've got. It has liters and quarts, so about, I would say almost 8 cups would be 2 quarts, a quart and a half. I mean, I would say about 6 cups worth. So that's not too bad. So we'll try to note later on, you know, what is the resulting amount of soy milk that we're going to have, or the liquid, I would say, left with this. I'm going to try another view here, and that might be unsuccessful. I think it's unsuccessful here. So we're going to go back to our original view here. Here we go. All right. Oop. There we go. So we're going to put this probably on this burner here, and we're going to put it on the high, and we're going to get it boiling. And once we get it boiling, we've got to be careful, because we've had the top here just in case. Sometimes it overflows, and in fact, you probably just have it cracked a little bit. You've got to be careful and watch it. You just got to stir it often. Stir it often. I'm going to get one of my ladles out of the ladle. We're going to watch it. So once it boils, we bring it back to a simmer, and then we'll put the timer on for about 20 minutes. And that's a good time for it to start to curdle itself. And it forms a little layer on the top called tofu skin. Now you can take that off, and then you can preserve that as well. And we might not do that, but sometimes that gets in the way. So sometimes it's good to have that and just put it aside, and you can kind of dehydrate that too and have some tofu skin. And that's an excellent thing that you can kind of crumble up, not really crumble, but put it in a soup and have it there and have that little extra layer of protein. Now, going back to David Asprey and his protein fast day, you should check 1 day a week, and you don't want to carb load. You want to also see if you can stay keto or stay, you know, somewhat towards the increased fat. Now, again, if you're not into Asprey, you might be into Dr. Foreman, and that would be a total no-no, is to do that. But the protein may be less, the carbohydrates more, and maybe not that much fat. If it is fat, if you're with Dr. Gundry, you know, it would have to be, oh, actually Dr. Mercola would want you to do no seeds, no seed oil. The polyunsaturated are not necessarily the greatest in his mind, so he's more into the ghee and the clarified butter and the free-range organic style of butter, and then you also have the coconut oil, MCT oil. Again, Asprey has his own brain octane oil, C8 he calls it, and that is an excellent oil if you wanted to go. So there's kind of like up 2 pathways to that. There's the fast-acting fat and the slow-acting fat, and if you want to get the fast-acting fat to hit there before the glucose, the fructose hits your brain and your bloodstream, and that might need to have a buffer, and usually it's better with that saturated fat first. Again, that's his take on it. That would be more probably in the line with Dr. Mercola and also Dr. Or David Asprey, and maybe even some of the other keto DeLauer and such that are on there, and a couple of the other doctors that are also, or chiropractors that are also on the internet, on the web. So we're doing this, and we're getting hot. It's getting more hot than I want it to be. So I'm going to just try to cool down a little bit of the now, as I'm doing that, let's just take off the hat. All right. So I've got the Ninja band on here. So that is boiling, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting and watching what's going to happen with the soy. So we should have stirred it a little bit beforehand because it's getting a little bit cakey on the bottom, and we don't want to do that. And it's starting to come up. It's starting to rise up. Again, we're going to find a better view eventually for you to see this. I still haven't chosen the best way to do that. Now, I do have a little bit left of the soy. And I'm just going to throw that on the top. Now, that might have a little bit of extra meal in there as well, but we're going to go ahead, as that's trying to boil, we're going to come over to the kitchen sink here, and we're going to rinse this out, and we're going to try to see if we can, in the meantime, without making that overflow. You watch that, you just indicated that needs to, there's no bell or whistle on this now. We don't have it just on Twitch alone. It's actually live streamed on multiple channels. We're using restreaming broadcasting, and that is looking at YouTube, BiohackerPT, and then you have Facebook, the public page, BiohackerPT, and then you have Twitch, which is BiohackerPT, and you have Josh Who TV, which is, again, BiohackerPT. So we've got 5 channels, and we also have a Discord channel that we're just starting up. If you wanted to join us there, for recipes, for research, for information regarding that. All right, so that is almost to a boil, and I'm still trying to get this arranged so you can see down the gauntlet. I don't know if a good comparison there to say that, but and we're going to put my sign over here in this one. I don't want it to fall, so it's just going to be kind of here like that. And we'll probably get our yam that we used, our Gundry yam, for that there. And why I say Gundry yam is because he believes in the resistant starch. You get the, not butane, but it's, oh, here it goes. So you've got to slow that down really good. You might even take it off the stove. Butyrate, the butyrate. And then there's the more technical term for butyrate. So as I'm stirring, maybe I'll take you, come closer. Okay, be my friend, Gimbal. There we go. So you can see here, and I'm going to get my dwarf stool. So we are boiling, and we probably need to get, it's going to be too loud here, but I've got to have a little low fan going on, and because they've got the microphone, you might be able to hear me still. So look at that. So we've got that in the low mode, and I think it's safe enough. You still got to watch it, and we will then keep that boiling. So that's put the timer. I'm going to probably put only 18 minutes now because that was boiling a little bit already. So that needs to boil. See, it's coming up again. Yeah. So it'll keep on trying to pop its way upward, and we have to watch it and stir it. And this is actually too steamy to see through, so we might have to take that on and off. So remember, we have the soybean meal, and then that's how it looks like a closer view of that. And we are going for the second round of that. So it's kind of at a sensitive time, so you have to be very, very watchful of this. Now, it's not as fresh. It's got kind of that stale, a little bit stale, but it's not as strong as the 3-day sprouting. The 2-day sprouting is a little bit it's kind of a trade-off. You still got the benefit of soaking it and sprouting it for a couple of days. Sprouts didn't fully come out, but that's okay. So that's going, and now we're going to go ahead and take our blender. So I don't know how long it's supposed to last, if it's going to last that extra 16 and a half minutes there, but we are going to try to keep it at a low amount. So, now I haven't drank any water yet, and I need to, and lo and behold, we do have some water. Now, let's talk about water. There's all kinds of things that you could put in your water that are good. I found a real great NFR pathway, NFR2 pathway, which is, it stimulates your antioxidants, but it's not, it's got a different effect. It's not just like true antioxidant. It's not going to inhibit your exercise. It's like an exercise. You know, you have to have some sort of hormetic effect, a stimulant to create more antioxidants, and that's what kind of the NRF2 pathway does. And with the KEEP, is it the KEEP 1 or KEEP 2 pathway or proteins, or I have to look at that again. But that's very beneficial, and you can get that actually with a little hydrogen or H2 tablet that you can put in your water. And you have to make sure you don't have cold water, hot water, just regular tepid water, and then you will put it in there, and it will eventually dissolve the tablet, and you're going to drink it right away. The whole thing, the full, I think it's like 16 ounces, and you just got to drink it in not one fell swoop, but kind of in one fell swoop. All right, so that is going. I think we'll be fine with that. So this one here, got a little bit of condensation on that side. So we're going still with the second batch of our soy creation. Alright, so we're going to go for that. So this is the second batch for this. And which one is on now and then? Probably should have that longer lasting, but that's okay. We don't want to dead the battery completely. Gotta keep a watch on this. Now, one time I did too long and too short, and it's really crucial, actually, the timing of that. So we need 3 cups of filtered water. I don't know if we have enough, but we will try. We will try. Now, we've got to watch that, because that's going to start to boil over, and I can see it's trying to do that right now. So I might just go with the 2 cups here, and then come back to the 3rd cup here in a minute. Race over here, take a look. It's just a vigorous boil right now. Now, you can see why this ends up being maybe 3 cups at the end. So I'm going to put the lid on and cap some of that steam so it'll preserve a little bit of moisture. But I don't want that all to be gone by the time it's kind of a waste. So I've got 2 cups here. I need to do another cup. I just got to watch this. So that's good. Now, that might speed up. Alright, so we are going now with cup number 3, making sure it doesn't burn on the bottom, and we need to start blending this as well. We've done good so far, so good so far. A little bit longer, of course. It's already, way past who knows our bedtime, but we are continuing on that. So I've got to have one in the plug, the other one's in my speaker headset, my earbud. I don't even have the top for that, so I'm going to be in trouble if I don't find that. And here it is. Again, we've got to kind of do 2 things at one time here. We've got to make sure that that's not burning on the bottom and not overboiling, and we've got to get this going. Start it out slow again. So the reason why we have less water in this one is because we want to make it thicker as it's smoking. Now, I've tried some hemp food for a while, but we've got to do one of my and we make hemp. that is the blending of it. So the next step for that will be the squeezing part. Now, you probably need to squeeze it in here, so I wish this could be done faster. So while that's going and that's boiling there, we need to squeeze this in good due time. So we might start with just a smaller bowl here. We've got to use the smaller bowl, and I have, you know what, I think we'll use this one here. This is big enough. This is the Instant Pot bowl. And we can still fit the Instant Pot screen in there. And we can start squeezing this one. We just got to keep on watching this one. We don't want it to overboil. We don't want it to be stuck on the bottom, and we don't want it to fully evaporate. But that's going to be a disaster if we work so hard to squeeze that and we have nothing left at the end of the show. All right, you know what I mean. Now, let's go ahead with the strainer that we have rinsed already in here. Again, we got to watch that, make sure that's not boiling over. They always make it look so easy, but is this easy? No, it's not easy. Not easy at all. It's like a labor of love. It takes kind of revving up. It's like going back to work after you've been off for a while. It's like, oh, do I have to go back to work? All right, so we don't have to actually have from the top. We can just have it straight from this, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can do all of this at the same time. All right, let's just go for that. There's maybe going to be less water, so it's flowing nicely. And we'll probably keep it in here so it's not drip. Best place for it. Again, we got to watch this, we got to watch that. We've got battery power about 30%, so we are wasting away the tripod with a plug here in a moment. We start running out of battery or juice. Talking about juice, again, that's getting up high. Get that way up high. We're gonna stir that. I don't know if it's from this that's on there, but quickly just accelerates to the top, doesn't it? Now this doesn't, this third batch here is not squeezing as nicely as the first two. And it could be the bag, and it could be just the consistency of it because we have less water. So this one is going to be kind of a challenge. It's going to be, it's not as smooth as the watery soy milk. And here it goes again. That's the one that wants to rear its ugly head. Maybe just opening it up might be okay. Alright, so now and then we'll just open it up and see if that will satisfy, because we gotta squeeze this and we don't want it dripping everywhere. Again, this is not from experience. I haven't done this too long. This is all just new, and in a matter of several months now that we've done all this here at BiohackerPT. So we're still learning. Some suggestions, we definitely are open for some suggestions on how to do things. And I think I better stir this one because it won't be overdone on the bottom. We have 8 minutes left for that, and we're down, getting lower and lower on there, so we don't want to have it open too long. So we're squeezing and squeezing here. This one's a harder one to squeeze. So maybe because it's 2 layers as well. That's just vigorous in the boiling, isn't it? It wants to just boil over, doesn't it? And that's okay. We will be okay with that. Now, what would be good is actually a little bit of extra light. I don't burn my arm as I reach over. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now, we're probably putting a little bit too much light on the situation for the evening show for myself tonight. Try to go to bed. It's always good to have less blue light in the nighttime. So the Biohacker glasses are very excellent. Get them on Amazon. You can get it at David Asprey's site. Again, I'm not promoting his site for any benefit. Oh, I think they're called like not day hackers, but they're for the daylight. And you don't want to use them, the stronger ones in the day, because you need some of that blue light. You need to have that to activate your circadian rhythms. So full sun in the day, in the mid part of the day. In fact, take off your sunglasses and with a hat on, of course, a wide rim hat. Maybe not too wide, but a wide rim hat, and try to increase your exposure to the midday sun. And the reason why you want to do that is you want to make sure that you have that, first of all, for your skin, for vitamin D, the UVB, and not too much. You sometimes use one of those apps that can tell you how long you should stay out there before you get burned. You don't want to be burning yourself. Even through your clothing, I'm not out there, you know, semi-naked at work, walking around outside. I just go ahead, you know, and walking around in the daylight with the clothes on, of course, and getting the benefits through whatever skin exposure I have and through the light-colored clothing. Right. So there was a like I would say one of the earliest biohackers in early America, John Harvey Kellogg, and he would wear all white. I don't know if that was the thing at the time, because you have Colonel Sanders of Kentucky Fried Chicken fame that would also wear all white. Colonel Sanders, all right. I always wonder why Colonel Sanders can kind of get by with colonial where you know people in politics can't. You know, you just don't want to wear colonial style clothing outfit, and I don't know if it's really colonial, let's just say that, but it's all white, and that's very beneficial. You have probably less blockage of the UV with that. Of course, you don't want to have too much exposure, so it's very important to put on the sunscreen if you're going to be exposed for a long time. Again, get the sunscreen that filters out both A and B, and then you've got to make sure that it is mineral content. That would be even better instead of the synthetic parabens and the such. Again, some studies show that may not be as bad for you, but I used to have I need to find out what's happened to her. I haven't seen her broadcast yet, but she used to broadcast talking about her still got my headset in, but she talks about cosmetics and natural cosmetics, and I need to go and see if she's still on the internet. I can't really hear myself with that fan, but I do need that fan for the taking away the steam here. So still working on this first batch for the soy meal separation, the soy curds and the whey. And I've got about 3 minutes left in that, and it's going to be probably perfect timing because I need that to cool down, and I'm going to be pouring it into another pot because I'm going to use this pot again for boiling this part of it. It's still a lot, so I'm glad it's still there, but it's got this finickiness, and that's kind of beneficial to have the soybean. So you probably separate it, then you would squeeze it, then you'd probably put it back in the soy maker, and you can boil that without having to freak out that it's going to be boiling over like I am. So here we are. Let's just look again and see if there's any Facebook people that are chatting on there and saying, man, this guy's crazy, you know. But you gotta be a little crazy. You really do. You gotta be a little crazy to do this. And it's kind of a fun crazy. But I like this view. Look at that. It's coming up again. We got 2 minutes left of that. That's kind of been fighting with us the whole evening. It hasn't really calmed down. And I'm sure it's kind of curling on the top. And once we transfer it, we'll give it time to do the kind of the soy skin, tofu skin on the top. And we will probably skim that off. Not as fresh as straight, you know, just soaking overnight. This has been sprouted for 2 days. And if, you know, weather patterns you have, it'll be fine for the sprouting. Sometimes 3. Again, you have to fight the kind of the mustiness that you don't want to have sometimes. That's what we've chosen. We don't have time tomorrow to do this. But Alright, so that's going to finish up in about a minute and a half. And I'm squeezing still batch 1.5 on this one here. And again, we still got to throw the dehydrated, we're going to still dehydrate pecans and the flaxseed. And that's going to be important to put in addition to the soybean meal that we're making. And I can see that this is going to be a little more on the liquidier side. That's a word for this soybean meal. 48 seconds. Can we kind of like run it all the way without having an open lid and see what it does? I don't think so. It's like it's rising up again. And look at that. Alright, so let's see if we can just use the air to kind of like calm it down. I still need to keep that top on because I don't want it to boil all the way. All that hard work, you know. You don't want it to just go up in smoke or steam, more or less. Well, here it comes again. It's just gonna rev its ugly head all the way to the end. Let's just see if we can you know, it's not nice here. We're so close, we're so close. I'm going to stir this one more time at the end. This will be the final touch for that. And we will now pour this over to the other side. So we're going to put this here, that aside for the moment, hopefully. It's coming in. That's okay. So we're going to pour it into another pot. And the reason why we're going to pour it into this, you can't see that where you're at in your angle. Ooh, we got quite a few cups there. So I'm satisfied with that. Now, there's a bunch of extra meal on the side. You probably can't see that. Yeah, you can. So we're going to take a spatula and see what we can do with this. And I don't know what to do with that. This is almost like curds already. So we'll try to preserve that. The oven is going. So we want to preserve that because a lot of this is actually going to be the curds that we need to have for the, not really curds, but it's part of the yogurt, per se. Not curds yet. We need curds for the tofu, but this is a combination of curds and dairy for the sprouted soy yogurt. You almost have to do this because soy is just, you know, it's got kind of a bad rap lately.
Alright, so it sounds like a battery is going down. I think
That is my phone. Alright, so we preserve that the best we can. We just wash the rest of that. Now, what's more exciting? Maybe a mushroom quiche or whatever, but that you need to go to my wife's niece for that. You can enjoy her. She should get a vlog too, because she's got all these pictures of her fiance, and I'm going to try to see if I can encourage her to have a vlog. Alright, so we've got the milk. We've got quite a bit there. I'm excited about that. I'm going to go ahead and cover it so it doesn't go away all together. And that's going to start to curdle on the top. We're going to let that cool, and then we're going to continue squeezing our soy or our cultured tofu. This is going to be exciting. I can see it's going to be, I think it's going to be a success. Now, I don't like the Rejuvelac for the consistency. It makes it kind of like that picture that was on the screen a while ago. But the Rejuvelac kind of makes it, I don't know, it's different. I almost like the consistency. I haven't tried it yet. I've tried only the Rejuvelac for the tofu. So I'm going to try to put some coconut yogurt culture. Just some little coconut yogurt that we have from the store. And I'm going to see if that will make it a thicker, more chunkier tofu. And I've run out of my rice water. It's too old to really. I probably have a little bit left over in my have a little spray bottle that I use for my skin. But if you use it on the skin, you want to warn your loved one, because they're going to turn their nose and wondering what in the world is that funky smell. Well, it's that fermented water that you're trying to get on your skin. So at least we don't have to worry about that overflowing right now, because it's kind of cooling down. And now we're squeezing this here. Probably do this not all the time, but this might not be just a one broadcast thing. It's going to be other times, because I hate to do this by myself. It's kind of a drag, actually. So it's good if you have a discussion, you can talk about other things. Let's talk about a fan. That fan there is probably producing a little bit too much EF and EMF. And it's right beside the microwave. You want to stand quite away from the microwave. I would say even at least 3 feet away from the microwave. Don't just stick your head there. Right. In fact, that's the reason why I have that hat that I usually have. It's protective for EMF. It's hard to get protection from one of those. I can't remember if it's EF. You almost have to have your body completely surrounded, because it'll kind of find its way around the corners and continue to kind of bombard you. So this is a very slow process, this one here. Yeah, we have to cook this one for 20 minutes as well. So we'll probably run out of battery power. We're at 16% right now. We might have to choose, just since you're really only having one view here, not really walking around with a gimbal. You probably need to find a tripod and just use the regular plug for that. So I'm kind of like looking and finding the plug. Right, so this again is a little bit more watery. And I don't really have time to squeeze every single drop of soy milk out of your waiting curds to come. But we will look at that here in a minute. It is warm tonight. Checking the air. Alright, so we are finishing up with this portion. For you who are Josh Schuler's, I don't have on there on chat for Josh Schuler. That's what I'm missing. So we'll put that on next time so you can chat along with us. And I will need to look at that and put that as a separate one. Probably where that other one has continued to disappear. So that let me squeeze it 1 or 2 more times. That's probably all we'll have time for. So we're going to find another pot. This is kind of more of a gooey one, a gooey mixture. So we will use this as our soybean meal. It's kind of like more of a whipped cream looking consistency, and we will then use the spatula, which I've used already. Where did I put the spatula? Alright, we might have to use something different. We do it so well with the spatula long ago. Okay, let's just use a smaller spatula. Here, it's small one. So maybe it's just better with a small one. So let's just take off this kind of whipped creamish style consistency of our soybean meal for this. So that's why I like to combine the other one and maybe have constitution of the balls there.
Missing out on the
The good gooey stuff here. So you probably could have squeezed that longer, but you don't want to be there all day for that. So we're taking that off right now. And a few drops are landing on the bottom of the stove. And again, we're trying to preserve every drop of goo that we have here. And we're seeing if we could be more successful with that as we try to take that down. After I do this, I'm like, I don't want to do this again for another month or so, but I like to do it once in a while. It's just, I bought so many soybeans for the famine, and for the coming price hikes, inflation's just going to go through the roof. We just know it. It's just a given. I mean, if you're in economics, you should really realize that we are going to hit the wall when it comes to inflation. We've already, put, the Fed or whatever has been putting us into this kind of like false sense that we're just okay. Again, it's sometimes political, because they're appointees, aren't they? And you need to prepare yourself, even if there isn't an inflation. If you had a large catastrophe in the area, like the people who had the hurricanes in Louisiana, or the floods that you have, or if you have the earthquakes. There was just another earthquake I just saw, 6.0 in Australia. You need to have some preparation. I mean, you don't have to be crazy. I don't think there's an imminent EMF or EMP bomb that's going to explode in the atmosphere anytime soon. But if you live in Japan, you might have some fears of that, because those Kim Jong-un's rockets are coming fairly close to Japan's airspace. They're actually in airspace. And it keeps on playing around with those missiles. So I'm not quite sure if he is, what is the purpose for all of that. So that's not too bad. Now I'm going to try to probably put battery power to the charger. Now there's some negatives using chargers. You want to unplug them in the night. You don't want to have chargers on all night, especially if they're not charging anything. You're just creating more electronic sound. But how can you sleep in that sound? It's just too much. You have too much electronic pollution. It just affects allergies, tension disorders, asthma. And there's research on that. It's not just made up stuff. So it's definitely to your advantage if you use some sort of filter to keep off those charged things. I think plugs is fine. Plug without kind of a charger adapter. Those adapters just put a lot of, and you can tell by an AM radio. You put the AM radio to it, and you can hear the static and the interference. It's just noise. It's just electronic smog. And I'm going to be careful here with it. I don't want to turn off the stream by turning off the phone, but this is going to be, I know this is live, but that is, and it's not so much that the gimbal's losing power. The gimbal, I think, is okay. I'm going to have to turn it off. Okay, so here we go. Hopefully I won't interfere with the stream. If I do, thanks for joining us this evening. So far so good, and here we go. So, alright, so we've got to do some manual pushing. Again, I got to do the zoom out now. Alright, so we're still with the second batch. Now let's look at the top of this. I don't really see too much tofu skin here there yet. Maybe it's there, but it's not in the bubbles. So we're going water. Now, we've got it rinse these bags because they're getting kind of thick with glue. And we're going to see if we can now squeeze the last bit of juice. Now you're not going to see the finished product. You'll have to go to Instagram to see it. Because I'm excited to put it on Instagram. Let's see what we've done so far. We haven't done too successful. And it's kind of hitting the bottom, so it's getting a little bit of the foam more than I want. But we're going to stay with this pot, I think, because we don't have too much left. Ooh, there's a big chunk of something there. Interesting. Huh. I don't know if that was just soybean conglomerate at the bottom. That's the right word. Why did I charge the Bluetooth speaker? No, not the speaker. Alright, so I'm going to turn this here. Now, there's all kinds of things that we have in the way of our sign. Again, this is Kanittha's Vegan Kitchen. Kanittha is not doing this. She's not wanting to do this. Now this is working out. Even though there was a kind of a blob there, this is working out. I don't know what's wrong, but this is working really quick. I think I had more than meal on that last one, so this is going to be a very small amount of meal on this one. It's got more than milk, so I'm glad in this whatever hour, second hour. So we still got 20 minutes to boil this. Now, what's going to be nice about this is going to be something that we're going to use for the week, or maybe even two. The soybean meal, which are the crumbles, or you sprinkle that on whatever your food is to add an extra protein, and then you have and remember that first we go ahead and we put it in the. I'm going to probably turn off the fan here in a minute.
Maybe. I think that fan's making it hotter than it really should be.
All right, so here we are. We're squeezing the last bit of milk out of this. There's this weird sound. It's like some sort of frog that's in here or something. All right. So back to the blue light. There's serotonin in the day, melatonin in the night, and then you've got to have the circadian rhythms, a little bit of extra, is it dopamine early on in the morning, early on the night. So that's what's bad if you have dopamine addiction. You don't want to have too high of a spike of dopamine and have it just constant. You want to have it consistent with your sleep cycle, which is a little bit higher in the morning and a little higher in the evening time. And that is also regulated by the suprachiasmatic nuclei, which is in your eye, in the retina, and then you have, you can actually produce nitric oxide in your eye, I think. Isn't that strange? But I found that the nitric oxide enzymes in the brain are actually beneficial for the neuronal enzyme for nitric oxide, nitrous oxide. Alright. So that still sounds like a frog in here, so I'm not sure who that is inside there, but we are almost done with this and we'll start to boil it here in our pot. What's nice when they have the original pot, you don't have that extra stuff just loose that you could have saved. Just as you transfer the liquid. So we're continuing to squeeze. Again, you can join us at the BiohackerPT. I'm still kind of developing my website. It's got some of my old stuff on there, but we'll put some new stuff as we round out the end of this year. You know, it's already 3 months is going to be almost Christmas. You're not even to Halloween yet, but because Halloween into Halloween is really just only 2 months left at the end of the year. And I don't know. And you can look at my other website about Hallows Eve and Halloween and the whole ritual with that. But again, if you are wanting to just pursue life in its best and just pass out candy and all that sugar and all that stuff, dress up like you've been dressing up all year with your mask, then you can go for Halloween. Alright, so we were continuing this here. Nothing frying in the background, or you know, it's almost like just the hum of the electric frequencies of the refrigerator, which I have one filter. I need to put 2 of them on for this. So this is so when you put those in, it's got a kind of like a spark. It's kind of like an interesting sound, and you can see the spark. It's kind of like an arc welder thing. It's kind of fun to use that. I actually bring that to work because I don't want to be sitting there at work for 8 hours with that fluorescent light all day long, and all the plugs, especially when it goes to the X-ray machines and stuff next door. It's just in the thousands, and it needs to be more in the 200s, I think. 50 kind of is the threshold from some country. I think it's Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan. They have standards on how much electronic smog that you should have for EMF and EF. No, that's not EMF and EF. That's just actually from the wall sockets. And there's the electrical lines, the whole studies on that. Now there's non-thermal and there's thermal radiation. Now, every time you talk about the cell phone, you're always talking about, you wanted to talk about not only the thermal radiation, but the non-thermal radiation. What does that cause? That causes, in Dr. Mercola's book, not hydroxyl, the mutase, this mutase, it's actually called it's not actually free radicals as an oxygen. It's like nitrate. It's like nitric, the nitrogen, which is perinitrate oxide or something like that. It wouldn't be oxide, perinitrate, and that ends up being affecting the stress, oxidative stress of your body indirectly, but yes. Peroxynitrate. Peroxynitrate? Yeah, creates that DNA dinking. You don't want to have too many of those nuclear, what is that called? SNPs, I guess, what is this? Polymorphisms in your DNA. Nucleotide polymorphisms. I'm almost finished with this. This is actually very good. This is a little more chunkier than the last batch that we did, and still is not as squeezed out as the soy milk that we had earlier for the soy yogurt. Again, you'll have to look at that on Instagram for the results of that. Alright, so we are putting that final touch in here. We're going to use the spatula to take care of that. Again, I think it's Dave Asprey that is just not into the vegan food prep, and he complains about that in his book, or maybe several books. And I can understand why. He doesn't want to be doing sprouting all the day long and squeezing and doing all this stuff all night. So, unless you're retired or you're rich and famous and don't have to go out too much like some did in the political election just recently. That's another story. Biohacktivism. Alright, so let's talk about biohacktivism a little bit. What's in our air that's important for our health? And we have to be advocates of good air. Now, how can we be advocates of good air? So if we looked at the, what would you say, the particulate matter, we have the highest amount in, this California area, not only LA, but in Bakersfield and Fresno. And I'm kind of in the midst of that. Here we have some bad days right now. And then on top of that, we have the smoke from the fires. We've got these fires. I don't know the name of the fires anymore, but that was really the biggest eye-opener for me, is the fire that was in the campfire up near Paradise, California. That kind of opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff dealing with bioactivism, and how, I don't think it was staged or it was arson, but we have to think about, what was the kind of, is there an agenda with the way that the weather is and how it's burning up our forests here in California? I mean, I had one of the people at work that, what's left to burn? Nothing left to burn. It keeps on burning more and more every year. We have these large fires in northern and central and even southern California, and they just go on and on. Is it forest management that needs to be done? Well, that might be part of it, but definitely not most of it. So if you want to know a little bit more about the other stuff, you have to go to my other channel, because we do some, I would call it conspiracy research, but we need to look at those things objectively, of course. Not objectively, but just looking at what the theory is, I would say, and seeing if there's any plausibility of it at all. And it's hard to have some plausibility when it's so outlandish, but you've got to give it to them sometimes. You're going to have those sentinels in our society to keep us from falling into totalitarianism and all that stuff. So that's the biohacktivism involving the environment and our health. Right, so we don't delve too much in that for this channel. But all right, so we've got, I think we have enough juice here to boil now. So once we get the boil, that will be exciting again here in a moment. And we need to combine the soybean meal here in a minute. Oh, there's our fat. The bottom of our pot. And I've got to quickly scrub this down with some cotton. Got some gook on the bottom. I tried to stir the best we could, but we weren't totally successful with that. Now we've got to get this cool down before we put this, at least, some tepidness there to put the culture. We got to do culture for both, and hopefully we have enough for both. Okay, so that's not the best, but it's going to be too much of a difference, because we're going to have to clean it again in a short while. All right, so that's the best we'll do for that cleanse. Let's talk about cleansing. So a good liver cleanse? A good liver cleanse is milk thistle or silimerian. I don't know if that's the right word they have. There's the seeds, and then there is they're making it into tea, but the leaves, I think. I don't know if the plant stems and all that stuff too. But I have a liquid tincture that I use in my fiber drink. I put that in. Let's see how many cups that we ended up with this. Because the Instant Pot also has a cup indicator. Again, we have to try to cheat here to see where it's at. I'll have to say that we are about 3.5 cups. Okay, so a while ago we had, 6 cups? So definitely not as much. Try to save as much as you can there. And then we're just going to pour this into our boiling pot. I want to boil it over. So we want to save every drop if we can. So we might have to just use our hands here. Alright, here we go. Alright. Now, there's some blogs that actually don't have any narration at all. They just doing their thing and they'll interject now and then. You want to keep on learning. You want to keep on learning each and every day. You don't want to get stagnant, not learn. And when it's about health, it's very important. Especially if you're trying to defeat this pandemic, especially naturally, if you know what I mean. You can't just, protest and say, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to, take the vaccine. I don't want to. You have to really be an advocate of health if you're going to. There's only a few people that actually probably deserve to be unvaccinated, if you know what I mean. They are the people who are the research worthy. To get there and have some research because they're the only ones left without having this experiment on them. But let's get going on this. It is a large experiment. Never in our modern history that we've had, everybody take this thing. So there's still a few that are stragglers that are out there. Now I think if you mention just even the word nowadays, you don't have to say something else. You'll get censored. Now, what is that? I mean, if we're talking about health and activism, we have to encourage an open society. Freedom of thought, unless it's killing people, I guess. It's not good. So let's combine all those together. Still got this bowl here. We're going to combine all this together and make some separate balls again. And we're going to see what leftovers we have there. Alright, so that's going to boil here soon, and we've got to start attending to that time in a moment. But as we do that, I might be able to throw this at least in the Instant Pot. Now, I'm making sure that the Instant Pot is free. Okay, it is free. So we've got to dip this dry completely because we don't want to have any moisture on the bottom of this because the moisture is not what we want. It just gets to be really gooey. So that little 3.5 cupper there, we've got to be very protective of that because that's going to be our tofu. And then we're going to just have a flat pancake of tofu if we don't be careful. Now remember we put 3 cups of water in there, so 3.5 cups is not too bad, minus all the extra goo that we just took out. So we're going to combine these balls. This is not a ball, this is just a mass of whatever you want to call this. I'm going to have to see if we can come closer. Alright, so again, we're going to put the top on here. It's not the cleanest right now. And we don't want any moisture on that, so maybe we'll put the chunkier ones in here. And then we're going to throw the rest of the soybean meal. Now this again is more, what's the consistency? It's like a paste, soybean paste or something like a, what's the word? Not soybean paste. Another soy product is miso. I almost forgot about miso. Miso is the fermented. So let's just mix that all together. We'll make it the same consistency. And we have to make sure that doesn't get burned because we're still on the high mode there. And look at that, that's really sticky. So I'm not sure how successful we're going to be in our attempt to make these balls. But I should clean out one of these because it needs to be fairly crispy clean for holding 3 or 4 of these soybean balls. It sounds funny. Alright, so that's one. And now I probably could try to squeeze more juice out of this if I was really that crazy about making this drier. But a little moisture is not too bad because it will gain some moisture in the Instant Pot anyway. And we need to just crumble it at the end as well. So that's number 2. We're going to have more than 3, I think. We should make 3 only. But this is really gooey. I almost want to squeeze some more juice out of it. But let's just see if we can find it. Now, I could hear that smell. Oop, there it goes. Alright, so now's the time to put it on the low. And feel a little chunkiness on the bottom already, so I probably should have stirred it a little bit sooner. And we'll just go with that. And we're trying to save all our goo everywhere. We got it everywhere now. I don't know if you see that or not, but we have our goo everywhere. So we're making ball number 3, and we have to still keep an eye on that because that's still going to pop up. So these balls are a little bit more, what's the word? Too gooey. I'm still debating on squeezing some of the rest of the moisture out of that. So I might still do that right now because it's just still too gooey to really play with it. I don't know. It's not the nice bowl that I usually like at the end of this. So, since that's boiling there, and since we've cleaned, I believe we cleaned off our bags. Boy, that's just a fury today. It's the weather, or it's what? Just coming up like crazy. That always makes it exciting, I guess. Okay, so we're gonna put a couple of these balls in this bag here and see if we can squeeze some more life out of these. Just put everything in there, and I might as well. All right, so we've got everything in there. It's probably too much, and we've got to kind of clean the hands a little bit. So we want to have a little bit of extra milk if we can from this. So we've got to find some sort of a container that's not got the meal in it. Let's just see what we got. Ooh, we do have some moisture in here. So there is some left in here. So we've got to keep an eye on that. Oh, we need to put the timer. I would say that's been already, we'll put maybe 16, 17 minutes on there. That's been, I would say up to 3 minutes already. So let's go ahead and just push. Again, we don't want all the moisture to be gone. So maybe it's too much meal. So let's take off half of that on the top. I feel like the chef in the Muppets for some reason. A dish to dish, dish to dish, the dish to dish, dish to dish. Yeah, kind of that. Dish to dish, dish to dish. The Muppets. That was an interesting show, wasn't it? Got Fonzie Bear. Oh yeah, that's Fonzie Bear. I forgot about Fonzie Bear. Huh. I have my son. His name is Fonzo. She's Fonzie Bear. I think it's better than Alf because he's Alfonso. But now I'm probably gonna, throw the milk in here as it pours out of this thing, and I'm being somewhat semi-successful with that. Getting some of that milk out. I knew that we were going to get messy again somewhere along the line. We were doing so well. But we are going to probably just squeeze a little more out of this if we can. And the reason why we're squeezing is because we want to have the consistency of the ball a little bit more than that. It just feels like it's too gooey. Probably should have just put one ball at a time in there. That would have been better. Okay, I'm going to probably squeeze that one more round. Keep an eye on that soy milk. Alright, so that's number 1. Kind of glad I got the apron on right now. Now what's special about this apron? This apron has got a Faraday cloth in it. It's not only an apron for cooking, but it's an apron to shield against EMF again, or EF, or RF maybe. There's one that you can't really shield unless you're completely surrounded. I believe that's the EF. I was mentioning that. We'll look at that later. Okay, so here we go with the squeeze for the second batch, and we're watching the soy milk that it doesn't boil over. And as I do that, I'm going to just take a peek at chat. And chat there, no go yet with that. And we're just going to minimally put That's good. So we gotta throw that in there here in a minute. We don't want it to be undercooked, even though there's just a few drops of life left in this. Okay, gotta stir that. Remember, we've got only 3.5 cups to play with. We've got to be very careful not to let it all evaporate. All right. Now, we are getting to the phase where at work, I'd be working as a physical therapist, and I'm sure we've all done that, and we have the patient strewn across the ICU bed, and we don't have anybody looking in there, and we've got the tubes everywhere, and the patient all exposed, and we've got, you know, a mess. Sometimes it's a bowel movement or whatever, and or sometimes it starts leaking, and we're just really embarrassed because it's such a mess, and we want everything to look nice before the nurse comes in, so we're quickly trying to put it all together, and if you know what I mean, this people that are working on inpatient. Okay, so again, how does this affect you? You want to be actually a biohacker too as a physical therapist, because you're promoting health, and you want to have your own, you don't want to have a burnout with yourself at work. A lot of times you burn yourself out, and if you are a chronic pain therapist, and I don't say that for, lightly, but somebody who deals with persistent pain, you have to deal with a lot of psychology, and the psychology of pain is very fascinating, and you almost have to delve in an area that you're not an expert in, so you have to really be very mindful of that, and it's actually mindfulness that you're actually trying to gain from your therapy, because they need to be mindful, but then you don't want to, you're not a psychologist, you're not a psychiatrist, you are a physical therapist, but there's so much you could help them so much with their psyche by exercise and doing the right things for their physical body to help their spiritual. The spiritual is part of it too, but that's another story. Because a lot of times people are uncomfortable talking about spirituality. And why is that? Is because we've made it to be a difficult topic, I guess. A difficult topic is to talk about spirituality. And how does that involve with biohacking? Well, you have to have a good spiritual health to get a good physical health, and to have a good spiritual health is very good to have. So let's talk about neurotransmitters for a moment. So neurotransmitter is activated as you get together in a church setting, more or less, or a setting where you are, that's the last level, a setting where you have fellowship with other people, have a faith actually to have. There's so much benefit with that, with the health, okay, with your psyche, and your overall, because if you have that feeling of health, you're going to probably have lower amounts of serotonin for one, and we can't underemphasize GABA. GABA is when you take gabapentin, if you have rotten, you have increase in your seizure activity, or people who have a need for their nerves to be addressed. So you can take the gabapentin, but you can also enhance your GABA, which is supposed to be the neurotransmitter to help to, I think it's relax actually your body. So GABA is very important. It's hard to really get GABA in the diet. You almost have to take GABA itself, but you can stimulate pathways. And this is a little bit better. It's not the best. It's kind of a small ball. Make a bigger ball here. This is kind of fun. Kind of getting engrossed with this a little bit. Not even talking to the stream anymore. But you got to be careful when you're doing therapy, when you're dealing with chronic pain, because you can kind of get it can kind of get to you because, you know, they have 10 years of chronic problems and nobody's listening to them, and you kind of want to be the savior and to help them, but you got to remember you can't do that. You're just going to burn yourself out. You're going to get too entrenched in them, and then they're going to be dependent upon you. And then what you're going to do? They're going to be crying on the last day of therapy, wanting more, and you just don't have any more left for them. You've already exhausted their benefits, or you just felt like there's a plateau, and what do? You have a crying patient that's not going to be able to self-sustain themselves. And I say that kind of lightly because you always need to have the spiritual as part of your sustenance, but self-sustaining in essence. Okay, this is working out well. I just have to kind of keep an eye on a couple of things here at the same time. All right. So I have no idea what time we have. 8 minutes left on this. That was very close. I've got to preserve that 3.5 cups. Remember, I don't overdo that, and it's going to be a completely mess. Let's look at this here. That's still cooling down, and we'll have it kind of half lid open. All right, so we're now finished, I think, with the balls. So these are the 3. Ooh, that's greenish. What is that? I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to pick that out. Some sort of green goo in there. I'm trying to think about what that is. It's probably part of the smoothie that was on the top lid of the blender, a leaf or something. All right, so we've got the 3 balls. You just kind of stack it like this, and you're going to place this in the instant pot. Now I've got to keep an eye on that. It'll want to overflow every time I walk away from it. Alright. Again, saving every crumb that I have. Ooh, this is getting really low. I don't know if it's going to last for 6 minutes. We're making curd as we speak here. There's no more whey left. So the whey will be very minimal. I'm already predicting. So there is a few bits of this left that's going to go on the top here, and let's go with this here. So this is kind of a ritual that you have to kind of get into if you're really into this, and probably there's really very few people who are willing to do this. But if you're really interested in eating soy, you have to do your own soy pretty much, unless you found the shredded tofu, or but still it's not cultured. And the yogurt, you know, we took special care with the water that we used, and the whole process of separation of the meal, and the freshness supposedly to it. So I think we've salvaged all we can for the soybean meal. There's a few little crumbs left, and just I guess the insistence on every piece here. You think about third world countries, I guess, and maybe you watched too many of those, you know, Feed the Children when you were growing up. So you're one of those people that don't want to waste any small amount. But then you got to think, and we just are over consumers in America. We really truly are. So I don't know if we even have 2 cups worth there, but hopefully that it won't evaporate altogether. So I'm over here now, and I'm going to be using the Instant Pot. And I've got actually half of the Instant Pot in the sink, remember? So let's see if we can clean up at the same time. And we've got actually the top part. You have to keep an eye on that. Make sure it doesn't overflow on this. It somehow indicates it's beeping. I'm not purely on Twitch, so there's no large sound you can make of applause or boos or whatever you want. So we've got to have I've got almost a sudsy on the bottom here. Here we go.
probably going to be good.
Still wants to go over, even though there's barely anything left. So we're quickly degenerating into this desperado mode at the end here as we finish up. But okay, so let's just see what we have. So this is kind of entertaining, I would say, to say the least, as we do all these fancy things. So we're going to throw this over in the Instant Pot. Can you see the Instant Pot? Yes, you can. So we're going to throw this in here. We need to put a cup of water on the bottom. We'll just use filtered water. We'll just use that. And we just want to cover the bottom. We don't want to go overboard with too much water. And it's probably not going to be too bad because you can't really overdo it on that one because the water's not touching you. It's really on that grid. What's the name of the grid now? Now we're going to put this. Where did I put it? There it is. I'm going to put this on the top, and we've got to see how many minutes soy cooks on an Instant Pot, and we're going to use the same time that we use for the same time that we use. 2 more minutes left for this. Same time that we use for the cooking. That on the steamer, not the steamer, the pressure cooker. It is pressure cooker, but when we're cooking it directly in the water. Again, we were not doing the water, we were doing steam. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to look under soybeans. It's about 20 to 25 minutes. We're going to choose the longer time usually. We're going to go for 25 minutes with this. Well, maybe 20 because it's the steamer, so we don't want to overdo it. So let's put this together with this rim on the top. And we're going to go for the Instant Pot. Make sure that it's not overflowing. And we're going to go with the steam, and we're going for 20 minutes, right? Let's see if we can go to the adjust mode. So 15 minutes is, looks like we can adjust it higher to 20. And let's go to 22. Kind of round it out for what I usually use with the rice, brown rice or red rice or purple rice. There's so much benefits in the, what is it? Not the axanthin, but the so there's nothing left. So I'm going to turn that off because there is nothing left. That completely evaporated. There's nothing left for the tofu. Wow. We boiled it all away. Interesting. So that 20 minutes was too long for that. So we might not have success for the tofu after we wanted to have it success. It's almost a cryable moment. That's okay. 20 minutes is just too long. Yeah. We'll see what we have salvaged left. It's kind of a sad moment. Everything is silent now as we were quietly pondering all the effort we made into that. And you see my lips boil away. But we'll have to see. We might still gain some success out of that if we have maybe a cup of tofu from that. There's the timer. Felt like 40 minutes on that. But, okay, let's go to something that's more successful. Let's go back to the dehydration mode here. Okay, so let's go ahead and come over here. Let's come over to the happy side. There's still a little bit of juice left there. Maybe we can just throw that in there. Might as well. There's nothing left there. Okay, so let's go with the sprouts for a moment. Let's see what's something more positive. Understand? We've got, remember, the pecans, the meal that's coming in the Instant Pot. These look kind of on the dirtier side because I kind of preserve these every time. So I try to want to find the right color, match the one that probably was not the soy, it was more of the sprouted this or that. So we've got a couple of them. We have these two that we're going to use for the. Okay, so we're going to just throw these sprouts.
If you could see that. Let's see if we can expand that more and angle it down. There we go.
So we're going to make this. I'm going to put these flaxseed sprouts. Again, this is all in the Vegan Gourmet Kitchen if you're looking for recipes and timing and all that. You know, you could just do this alone, and this is just good enough. Just, you know, for those who are very busy, life, they don't have time for, you know, making tofu and all that stuff. But we're going to use a tray for each one of these. All right, so this is interesting to say the least. But we were using these sprouts. Look at these sprouts. We're putting them. Well, that's not really much left on that because that's already on the plate or on the dehydrator. Tray. Is an interesting word. I use all the time. Or so-called, or let's see, more or less. There you go. That's most for me. You always have to be self-conscious when you're talking. Sometimes you just don't want to be saying the same, not idioms, but interjected fillers. Right, so we're trying to preserve every single sprout there left, or seed. Chia seeds can also be used as a. I don't really eat the chia seed. Again, that's a Gundry thing, and maybe not as much science to it. But he's just, you know, as a vegan, chia is you know, high amount of omega-3. You don't want to eat just flaxseed the whole time, but. Because really, even the flax has this, I don't know, it's this glycoprotein or this stickiness, and that sometimes could be inflammatory, according to Gundry. So, Dr. Gundry, the author of The Plant Paradox and Longevity Paradox, again, not promoting his book, but interested as being a vegan and you're having leaky gut symptoms like autoimmunity and can't get rid of your weight and having problems with brain fog and the like, you might want to consider his plan, which is interesting to say the least. I think there's a lot of benefit. Was revolutionary. It was revolutionary. The word is a paradigm shift in your idea about vegetarianism and veganism and even just in general, that type of thing. So, as we take the sprouts off, which is not successful so much, let's go with our next tray. I would probably spend more time to spread that around. Let me just do that right now. I like to spread it out kind of everywhere. Probably doesn't matter so much because these sprouts kind of stay together anyway. But it just dehydrates better. I mean, this doesn't need 20 hours. This is probably just overnight at the most. Maybe 6 hours is good enough. Maybe even less than that. Not too long. You want to have them dry enough so you can last without having refrigeration, of course, or moldiness. So you got to give it a good, I would say, up to good 5 hours to 8 hours. So that is never going to come off my hands altogether. So I'm going to put that tray on top of the dehydrator, number 1, and number 2 right here. Now this one is not as much, so this might not even fill this tray up, but you still have the flax seed, so it's not only activated, but it's somewhat sprouted. It is actually sprouted, just didn't sprout as high as the other pile. Okay. So this is the first time I'm actually, well, maybe the second time I'm streaming dedicated channel on my Facebook page for the public profile. So if you're interested in subscribing to that, definitely subscribe to that. And even if you're not, just stop by once in a while and put in a word or two, and maybe even a little bit of research. Research is always the best. As we go through this pandemic, we have to turn to research. And even if all the research is true, there's always the underlying, what's the word? Origins of things that we have to consider. Again, science though. Let's look at the science and may not promote fake news and encourage somebody to make a wrong decision, of course. In a free society, of course, we want to have a free and open society. To be free, but then we don't want to have openness. But then, if we want openness, we can't have freeness. If that's free. Now here, the Instant Pot kind of revving up back there. It's always a little kind of a letdown when you're not boiling and you're not frying. You don't have that sound. So again, it'd be nice if I could spread this everywhere and it's not coming off my fingers as successfully as I want it. So. Alright, so if we're closing the stream very soon, because we got only the pecans left and the almond, not the almond meal, but the soybean meal, which you might have to take a little bit of time to cool. You might even have to take an hour to cool before we can actually put it on the tray to dehydrate it, to heat it up again at 105. Probably that doesn't matter the temperature on that one so much, but we'll try to finish up here very shortly with our broadcast. Alright, so there must be an easier way to get that off my fingers, but I have not solved that problem other than just to kind of shake my hand. So we will probably finish that later. Right? So maybe if I have like a spoon or something or a fork, take that out. Amazing, no spoon. Kind of a rubbery spoon. Let's just take this fork. Here we go. Ah, success. So, for the record, for next time. So that's trying to steam over there. I might have to try to shut the pot there for the steamer for the Instant Pot. Because the old Instant Pots, maybe the newer Instant Pots are a little bit better, but you gotta kind of stick around. You can't just like leave it on a timer to go off on its own or to stay on, to turn on its own. Just to be there, because it's got this kind of a strangeness to it. Alright, now there's something wrong with that. I don't want to have that explode on my TV here. The live stream. So as I finish this up here, I don't want to take all the, steam out of that, so I might have to shut that down. I might have not had the ring on there secure for the Instant Pot. Sometimes if you don't have the ring secure, you got to be careful because that ring just doesn't seal that well when it's not secure. So just kind of a safety tip, I guess. So I might have to butt on over there in a minute. So this is the second tray, and I'm not going to play around with that too much. So we've got the third tray coming. Right, I'm going to have to stop this for a second. It's not working. The tray. Okay. a scary moment there. So we'll go for 20 minutes now. There we go. Alright. So you didn't get to see that. That was kind of exciting. Now let's pick one more tray for the pecans. Get the pecans. Dwarf mode for a moment. So we got the pecans. The pecans. So we're going to spread that now on one of our trays. And try to drain all the water off. So that is one of our trays. This is the top tray. Probably shouldn't be the top tray, probably should be the bottom tray, but we got this as the top tray. So we got the pecans going here. Nice. Look at the back of my head, isn't that interesting? A brief moment of nakedness with the skull there. There we go. I looked over and I was like, oh my goodness, horror of horrors. Let's see here. Huh. Okay. Alright, so now I have these two trays for the scary moment for the Instant Pot. So I'm going to clean a couple of things. Now I'm going to look at this tofu and I'm going to just cringe because there's nothing left. Oh, sad, woe's me. So we were not as successful, I think, as we should have been for this. So maybe if I salvage the side meal here for cakes on here, we might be able to successfully make another gram of cultured tofu. I'm kind of surprised at the end of this all that it actually ends up being okay. But this is probably less than okay this time. Alright. That's okay. I think it's going to still be okay. Going to have at least a little bit there to have for the photo op at the end. It's a thought that counts, right? Alright, so that's... And I'm not quite sure what the answer was. It just kept on boiling over. Maybe it was too much cover this time. Yeah. So I'm gonna actually start putting this in the pot. What do we call this? This jar. This is a nice jar. I get this again from Gourmet Vegetarian Kitchen. Not too bad. Smells nice. So much for the pristine apron. Alright, not too bad, not too bad. Not the greatest, but not all is lost. So that's what's nice about live streaming. It's kind of entertaining to watch somebody and they totally have a, what is that called, a fail. It's not even a total fail, but I mean, it looks like we may have a cup and a half. It'd be nice if we had 2 cups though, wouldn't it be? And some of that is probably a little away. So it's always good to have both the soy yogurt and the soy tofu. So then one might be successful while the other one is so-so. Yeah, so this is the what I'm. You get to that point where it's like in therapy. It's like, well, was the surgery worth it? You know, and you're like, I don't know yet. And you kind of get to that phase. You have to go through that phase of, you kind of get in between. Maybe it was okay, maybe it wasn't. And then later on, it's like, oh, I'm so glad I did it. Right now, some therapists, I would say I might be included in that. They're not anti-surgery, but they really want to go natural, and there's a last resort. So it's so much easier sometimes to just get a rotator cuff in there and just rehab that. But I like to encourage less intervention that's invasive. And that's why it kind of goes hand in hand with this. So, not the most, not the best, but at least a little bit. So we're going to be okay with that, I think. All right. Now, time to clean up that part.
So this is the bottom of the bowl. We don't want to see that.
So that was kind of a scary moment. It's hot.
So we don't have the gimbal right now. Back to 41%, so it's not too bad.
This is not too bad, the tripod. All right. So as we're cleaning and we're kind of wrapping it up for the evening, 3 hours into it, 2 hours and 40 minutes. And at least we had the flaxseed sprouted. And that will be dehydrated in a moment. We have the activated pecans. We've got the good soybean meal is always a success. I think it's just a matter of just taking the time to do it. Now that should soak for a while. Again, if you use soap that's phosphate free and environmentally friendly, that's always the best. And then you've got to also consider if you got allergies, hyperallergenic dishwashing soap would be the best. So it's always good to have a natural food store. It has all those products there and available. And there's always Amazon. That's the go-to. I actually buy all my nuts on Amazon. And then I buy all my beans at the farmer's market, the grocery store. Get all my fruits in either or those farmer's market, grocery store. So that might have to soak a little bit, even overnight. So we're going to just kind of try the best we could there as we try to clean up here. That's always the kind of the drag about it all. Is the ending is the cleaning. So it's therapeutic though, because you do so much. What's the word? Documenting through the day as a therapist. Just to kind of like clean is always, I always said that's kind of my middle initial for my degree, Doctor of Science, that's DSC, the small C stands for cleaning, Doctor of Science in Physical Therapy. Because no one cleans after us, we have to kind of clean ourselves unless you've got a lot of aides that kind of do it on you, but then they always go around and say, made, not aid, no, aid, not made, aid, not made. Black aid, it kind of like earlier on in my career, she would work in the gym, she'd be picking up things, and she'd always say that. Aid, not made, aid, not made. So what's good about having a chef, like I do at Pecans Vegan Kitchen, is that she'll get the bigger items
I get some of these extras and sunjuice and I didn't do too bad with that cleaning. Do a little bit of on the side. And we're kind of in a waiting mode for the cool down of soy. I'm going to put that here in a moment in our. Alright, so we're going to go for that now. That's kind of the best that we can do with this. He left the car running and he's still going with the live stream here, but we've got a few more items left before the last part that will shut down for the video. One is the putting it into the jars for the yogurt and throwing in the yogurt culture starter. This would be the soy, the coconut yogurt. So we have those two trays for this soybeans that are coming up here. We didn't totally lose everything from our. Should have been maybe a little higher than that, but that's okay. It's probably going to be a good small tofu chunk at least. I'm looking in the refrigerator for. Item that I need. Here. Come back to that. Oh yes. Actually, we need to look at the dishwasher. The dishwasher is still kind of like it says here, clean. We're going to open that up. I'm going to venture in here. We've got to take out a few items that we need for our. Let's see, where's it? One jar. Should have been a third one in here somewhere. And let's see it. It's cooling down faster than I can find it. Here it is. I'm going to find the caps here. These are going to be for soy yogurt. Third one here, we had all of them in there, and the top, so we're looking for the third top. The third top is to be found. I think we left it out. So we're going to use this. Everything everywhere, but there we go. This is the reality show, reality kitchen. So we're going here with the. We're going to probably put a ladle. Get it with the ladle. And remember we talked about the tofu skin. Let's see if we actually have some. This time we didn't get it, so that's okay. We will just stir, stir, stir. I'm going to put this. Again, we're going to increase the volume. Volume. Put this in our little cups, filled to the brim. So we were successful, I believe. It's still kind of warm. with this soy milk already curdling, which is okay. This should have been our tofu. Alright, we've got to find 2 more containers. We got one, actually, maybe 1 more container. You can't really see that very well where you're at. And we're going to go with 40%. 46%. Over here. Sorry, the gimbal is gone. Oops, we're doing so well. So this is really good. It's not quite soy milk anymore. It's just kind of curdling already. Which we kind of wanted to do once we put the starter in there, but alright, so we've got 2 more containers to do. This is one. This is kind of small as a lid or as an opening, so we're going to have to aim really good for that without having it all over the ground, all over the tray, all over the counter. The ants love this time of year. We just have problems with ants. Again, in biohacking, we don't like the pesticides, so we have to deal with our own natural pesticides and their little, what do you call that? Roach motels, ant motels. Alright, so we don't need that extra container. So we're going to just put it all into here. Might even overflow this one, but we can always share it later once we mix in. Now I'm going to probably wait a little longer, but I'm just going to show you what I do. I'll just put like a tablespoon of the yogurt, and you got to think about that now. You're making all this with a tablespoon of yogurt for each. So you're making, so this is a good way to save money, and well, you're not saving time at all. But if you had that soy milk carton, you just throw that in there, put a little bit of that yogurt in there, and you are good to go. Now, we can't forget the culture also in the soybean cultured tofu later. But let me just show you. Hopefully we have enough. So when you go crazy about eating the yogurt, Alright, so here it is. Again, I'm trying not to show you the brand, but sometimes it will escape me. This is not even open yet. So there might be one that's open already. No. So we will open this one as a fresh one. Coconut yogurt. And it's kind of, yeah, maybe okay with that. So we're going to kind of stir that. Let's get that out of the way. And what we'll do to be probably more exacting, we'll get the tablespoon out in a minute. And I don't know, we'll just see. So we've got, last time I barely had enough yogurt to put in there, but you can take your old yogurt and make it and recycle that over and over, and it's supposed to get better and better over time, they say, I guess, but I'm not, I like it to be fresh myself. So we're going to get the tablespoon out. Hanging on the edge. So we'll put like a dollop
of that for each of these. I don't know, I can't really tell the temperature because, I mean, it's supposed to, if it's supposed to survive in the gut, it has to survive, you know, the warmth of your, you know, you're not boiling it right now. It's like cool down after an hour. So we're gonna see, I'm gonna just take the temperature on it. I don't need these gloves anymore. It's still kind of on the extra warm side, so I'm gonna say, but you could just put that on there, and then you make that your soy milk. So only 4. So all that work, and you only have 4. So, but we're gonna be satisfied with that because you're gonna enjoy that. All right. This here is our tofu to be. A chunk of tofu, hopefully, when we put the culture in there. And got the door food. So, our final shot with yogurt, cultured tofu, and we should have had the other soybean meal that's still percolating, but we will close the broadcast for this evening, and we want to encourage you to definitely come back again and join us on Kanittha's Vegan Kitchen for more PT nutritional hacks. Okay? Thank you, and join the channel if you can. At least stop by. We will see you next time.